Thank you for joining us today. I'm Juliet Lawton of the Business Lincolnshire events team, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on innovation. We're looking really at businesses from Lincolnshire that have diversified during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the latest in a series of bite-sized webinars that was brought to you by the Business Lincolnshire Growth Hub to support businesses to get back on track after the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions. The Growth Hub want to help as many businesses across Greater Lincolnshire as we can. We're continuing to share the latest updates and advice as we receive it to make sure every business is aware of the potential funding, learning opportunities and tailored support that is on offer. We're also keen to share local business innovations or successes. So if you have any inspiring stories to tell, please do get in touch with us. For the latest news and guidance for businesses on this continuously evolving situation, please visit our website, which is www.businesslincolnshire.com. Should you wish to speak to an advisor, please email businesslincolnshire@lincolnshire.gov.uk. Or alternatively, you can call the COVID-19 advice line for support, and their number is 01522 782 189. That's 01522 782 189, and you need to select option 3 when ringing through to them. So it's now really my pleasure to introduce our panelists today and thank them very much for taking the time to join us. So we have with us Amy Conyard, who's the co-founder of Bottomley Distillers. We have Sam Owen, who is the owner and head chef of Salted Orange Food Company. And we have Leo Scott Smith, who is the founder and CEO of Tended. The discussion will be chaired by Simon Grandage, who's the project manager for Business Lincolnshire. So I'll now pass over to you, Simon. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet, and welcome all. Can you hear me, first of all? Just a nod will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Really pleased that we're able to have this discussion today, and you don't want to hear from me, you want to hear from the 3 businesses that we've got. We've got a set of questions for each of them, and I'm going to take them in turn. But I want to leave plenty of time for questions from you, the attendees, as well. Anything that you think of as we go through these 3 case studies, from really great case studies from businesses that have adapted and adopted in the current environment. To start with, we're going to go to Leo. Leo is founder and CEO, as Juliet just said, of Tended, based in Lincoln. And we'd like to hear a little bit about Leo, about your story. So if you can unmute yourself, you are unmuted, that's great. Can you give us a little bit of a background into your company prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, everyone. So Tended is a tech startup based in Lincoln. We're a few years old now, but we're a team of 34. We focus on building different IoT and AI technology solutions to help to detect and prevent accidents in the workplace. So a lot of things are based around these wearable devices that we've designed and built, and they use a variety of different data points to measure trends within the workplace. And then by doing that, it means that we can give employees feedback on the way that they're working and help them to improve their workplace. And then in the event that they're involved in an accident, we can pick that up as well.
Brilliant. So how old are you? So you've been going for
I think it's our 3rd birthday at the start of August. So just under 3 years.
Happy birthday then for next week. That's great.
Thanks. I wish we could celebrate it, but we're a bit too busy at the moment.
So thinking back now to the middle of March, before lockdown, before social isolation, before you had to leave the offices, what was business like before the outbreak?
So things were good, but it was definitely a challenging time coming into the outbreak. So as a bit of background, we are a privately funded company. So we have taken about £2.5 million in private investment to date. And so we're very heavily focused on research and development and creating very new technologies, and that requires a lot of capital and a lot of people. It was a little bit worrying because we are on books, excluding investment. We're a cash negative company, so we make a loss. And coming into the pandemic, we had clients that delayed contracts being rolled out. And there was this big sort of concern around what we were going to do and how we were going to keep ourselves afloat throughout the period. Fortunately, being privately funded, it does mean that that you have investors that are heavily interested in the company seeing this sort of period through. So as a result, we did receive some capital that allowed us to sort of see things through. However, we were looking at things around, furloughing half our staff, and pre-furloughing being announced, there was talks of them being redundancies. So it was a very concerning and worrying time. But I think that, we've been quite lucky in the fact that it's actually done us quite well.
What is the headcount there?
We're 34 people at the moment. We were actually about 30 before the pandemic, but we've hired 4 people throughout this period. So it's been a bit of a challenge onboarding people without being able to see them in person. So we've been growing throughout this as well. We're one of the few people hiring still.
And were a typical day, middle of March, before lockdown, were you typically in the same space each day, physically?
So we have an office in Lincoln, but about a third of our staff work remotely anyway. So it wasn't that much of a challenge for us. A lot of digital businesses have the benefit of being able to work from home. And as a result, it meant that the transition to working from home wasn't that challenging. If I'm honest, actually, we were a lot more concerned than we should have been. We put a lot of steps in place, and I don't think that was necessary. We saw a lot of productivity gains as well, actually. To give you an example, and I'll probably come into this, but a normal product development cycle for a new hardware product is about 12 to 18 months. And that's what it's taken us previously. But throughout this period, we've done something in 3 months. So I don't know whether that means that people are being more lazy in the office or what, but something's changed anyway.
Okay. So enough of the background. We could carry on, couldn't we? We could take the full hour just with you. But what have you adapted and how have you changed and reinvented yourselves during lockdown?
Yeah, so some of we work with clients that are FTSE 100, FTSE 250 companies that have very high risk working environments. So construction, infrastructure, logistics, manufacturing. And one of the big challenges that they were facing was how to support and reinforce social distancing within their workplace, because a lot of these industries were classed as key workers. So it meant that they were still allowed to have their staff in place. However, it did mean that they had to reduce capacity. One of the companies, I can't mention them by name, but they estimated that it was costing them £50 million a week in lost working time because they couldn't return to standard capacity. So we had calls left, right and centre from clients saying, look, we're really struggling with how to support social distancing within the workplace. Is there anything that you can do through your wearable devices? Now, I won't get into too much technical depth, but our devices use Bluetooth, and using Bluetooth for determining distance between 2 individual employees is very tricky because it uses something called signal strength, which is why the NHS contact tracing app won't work very well. So we use some other technology that we have previously researched for, like collision avoidance. So it detects oncoming vehicles and alerts people if they're within a certain vicinity. And we adapted that to provide a system which effectively caused the wearable devices on people's wrists to vibrate when they came within that 2 meter distance. And then you can monitor the time that they're exposed. And then you can follow World Health Organization guidelines. And it means that you can work out how long people have been exposed to people that could have been contracted. And you can work it back in a web graph and see the people that they're in contact with and such forth. And what it has allowed our clients to do is return their staff back to a high capacity. One of our clients, they're seeing an increase in capacity from 60% up to 90%, so a 50% increase. Just for that one small department, that's about £2.5 million saving every month. So significant savings. It's also helping them to return to work a lot safer and seeing quite a large positive behavioural change for this. we didn't think the market was going to be that large. We kind of just did it to support our clients. We thought we were going to be a bit bored. We were like, we could make a little bit of money and try something new and see if we can, it was our very, very small version of the ventilator challenge. And we thought, well, we'll do a bit of a press piece about it and see how it goes. And in about 8 weeks since we launched, we've had 480 inquiries, and I think about 7 of the FTSE 100 companies signed up to use it. So it's been really good, but we've been rushed off our feet. It's been a challenge, particularly with everybody working from home.
So middle of March, again, a 2-metre proximity wearable wasn't even on your agenda because there was no need for anything like that.
No, definitely not.
So this is the product that would have taken 12 to 18 months to develop, but you've rolled out in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
What support have you had, or what resources have you used or been able to utilise to help you fast track that development?
We haven't had a lot, if I'm honest. We've taken advantage of some of the schemes. We were one of the recipients of the Innovate UK did a business-led response to COVID challenges, so we were a recipient of £50,000. However, that is a drop in the ocean. I had to do a lot of research into pandemics and how viruses spread before I made the decision to invest in this, because it was about a couple of £100,000 gamble on whether it would work or not. And if it didn't, we'd have probably shortened our runway, which is what you effectively refer to in terms of cash in bank for privately funded companies. And we'd have shortened that quite significantly. We got 50 grand from them. We got a little bit more support from Innovate UK because we are an Innovate UK recipient for another project. And what else? We took advantage of the bounce back loan as well. Cheapest loan and debt that you'll ever get. I would recommend anybody to take it if they can. But apart from that, it's generally just been our team pulling together, and we focus a lot on culture in the business, and one of the things that was sort of got across quite well was that everybody in the team felt like they were all working towards this one big cause. And I think that's one of the big parts behind the fact that we could do something so quickly, because everyone was very passionate. It was at the forefront of everybody's mind, and they saw the need for this kind of solution, and as a result they were all backing behind it. And safe to say there were some late nights. I had a meeting with one of our clients, and the code for the new product got pushed at 4 a.m, and then I demoed it to the client that morning at 9 o'clock. So there was a lot of hard work involved.
And so again, back to this not being even a product that you considered developing. When was the first one worn by a client?
About two months after we made a decision to go live. We've got quite a few quite large construction clients in Lincoln. So it was kind of rolling out with them and seeing them using it. And now we're getting into so one of our clients is just about to kick their whole workforce out with them. So it's about 2,000 users. So it's starting to ramp up, but that brings its own challenges with supply chain. I won't get into it too much, but the supply chain in China has been totally disrupted. Electronic components are very, very hard to come by. I've become a Dell boy of electronic components and wheeling and dealing them and paying weird deposits to companies that I've never even heard of. Big risks. I'm surprised they've actually all turned up, touch wood. We've still got some to arrive. So yeah, we actually moved our manufacturing to the UK as a result of everything. So
okay. And I'm going to move on shortly and then come back to you to talk about the future, if that's okay, Leo. But yeah, you're more than welcome to say, sorry, I can't divulge that, but how many units have you got out there at the moment? You said 2,000 then.
So we've just placed an order for 5,000 units. So that'll be the first ones rolled out at scale. Right now, I think there's about 500 that are being trialed across, I would say about 15 businesses, big organizations. But yeah, so we're over the next, we're not too sure what's going to happen. There might be a second wave, whilst it does us well for a business, but I actually really, really hope there isn't, because it's a horrible thing that's going on at the moment. but we are predicting probably about 5 to maybe 25,000 over the next 6 months.
Brilliant. Thank you for now, Leo. We're going to come back to you again a little bit later on. Remember, everyone that's joining this as a delegate, please ask questions in the chat. We'll come back to those later on. But I'm going to now move over to Amy Conyard, who's co-founder of Bottomley Distillers. Amy, welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Similar question set to you, if that's all right. Okay, so we kind of perhaps understand, or we think we understand what, if you've got a distiller in your company name, what you do. But please, can you give us some background into your company prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. So we started our business from an idea Alan had in 2016. He decided one day that he wanted to start making gin and growing Christmas trees. And obviously I said, there, and thought that it would not quite evolve the way that it has. But so he had the idea early 2016, and then we launched to market in 2017 after a year of kind of going through licensing and product development and all things like that. And we've just been really fortunate ever since, really. We were the first gin on the market within Lincolnshire, so at a time where the market growth in the rest of the country had already happened, but Lincolnshire being Lincolnshire was naturally a little bit behind that curve. So we were absolutely able to kind of cash in on that, really. And so yeah, so when we launched in 2017, we just went from kind of not being anyone that anyone had heard of, and now thankfully kind of stocked all the way across the county and in a lot of the country as well. So our flagship brand, Pin Gin, was at the forefront of that. We've extended from our London Dry into a full range now, and we also distill whiskey and Lincolnshire whiskey and rum as well now. So
brilliant. And how was business before the outbreak? So thinking back to the middle of March, we knew that this thing could happen, but we were all merrily carrying on with business. How was business then?
Yeah, really, really well. We last year as well, we launched when we moved to our new grown-up distillery, because we were distilling in a garage for the first year, and we moved to our grown-up distillery in October 2018, and so last year launched our experiences, whereby we do tours and tastings and a gin school as well, and that was we kind of soft launched it, really, but then it was in full swing of things from some sort of middle of last year, really, and that sits at being booked kind of 3 or 4 months in advance at any time. So March looked lovely, gin school was booked up until now, really. Tours and tastes were the same. We launched our brand new rum to the market the week before we got locked down. Solid timing. Yeah, everything was quite nice. And then we shut the doors.
And how many people is Bottomley Distillers?
Yes, yeah. So there's myself and Alan, kind of obviously on the front of it, and then we've got a team of well, we actually employed 2 more people through lockdown. So there's 7 of us in total. Sorry.
And so, how have you adapted during Covid-19, and what triggered you to consider reshaping your offer?
So we obviously, everyone was aware of the sanitizer shortages that became quite apparent, along with all of the rest of the PPE shortages in the beginning of the pandemic and kind of entering lockdown. And we had talked about it, but weren't really sure what we were going to do. And then a couple of our larger retailers kind of approached us and said, can we work with you on a project if you're able to do it? And within 2.5, I think it was about 2.5, just short of 3 weeks, we turned around from that conversation to having product out the door, which was swift. In kind of like nowhere near the timescales for product development that Leo was talking about, but it would definitely take longer than 3 weeks usually to get something out the door. So yeah, but it was all reactive. We knew that we had the ability to help where there were shortages, and it seemed like a bit of a no-brainer. If you've got the option to do something to help, then we had to do it. So
and I guess you felt similarly to Leo's story, you felt that you were doing your bit for the kind of the national cause.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's kind of, from the sanitizer perspective, all the way across the county and the world, there's lots of different approaches distilleries took. So kind of from the very basic, where people had spirit laying around, they turned it into sanitizer, they donated it, that was the end of that story. It tended to be a lot of the smaller distilleries that did that because they had the option to. We have overheads because we've got a bloody great building. We have staff that we didn't want to furlough. And we had we still wanted our business to operate and function and be in a position where we could still trade at the end of it. So we knew that if we were to continue the business as a business, then as much as we wanted to do our bit and do the right thing, we needed to have a commercial element to it as well. And so the more we made commercially, it meant the more that we could donate. And that was kind of how we based it, really.
Were you producing in bulk packs, or were you producing in consumer size packs?
A bit of everything, really. So we had customers that bought IBCs full because they had their own filling facilities and just couldn't physically get hold of the liquid. And we sold kind of in between. So Lincolnshire Police, for example, were taking 25 litre polys at a time. And then all the way down to 500 mils. We never went to the smaller size bottle, mainly because in the beginning we just could not source that size bottle. It was just a dogfight for packaging to put sanitizer in. And so we just kind of had to do what we could do. So 500 was the smallest size that we went to.
And have you been able to continue with, one of my fears early on was I was aware of a number of distillers that were swapping over to produce sanitizer. My fear was that at the same time alcohol consumption was going up and that we were going to be faced with a gin shortage. Have you been able to continue running both lines at the same time?
Yeah, we shall not run out of gin, do not fear. So the process to make sanitizer is essentially a blending one. You're mixing a recipe, so there's no distillation involved. So that side of our distillery wasn't affected by it. The biggest effect that we had was the sheer amount of extra stuff that we had here. So we were obviously buying in larger different pallets of materials that we never had before, and from a storage perspective we don't have that much space here, so the whole building was a bit like a big Tetris game, kind of getting everything in and out every day so that the boys could work. Yeah, so we just managed it by, obviously we were blending and bottling sanitizer, and we would bulk that out, and then on a day where we would need to do gin production we would just clear all of those pallets out, and then obviously the blending tanks were fired up and the stills were on. So it was just a case of managing it from a production perspective, and that's all it is. The distillery's a production facility as much as the romance behind the big shiny stills. It's production, so it was just managing that.
And what support have you, similar question to I asked Leo, what support or resources have you been able to tap into to help you during this period?
So from the innovation side of things, we didn't actually go for any of those. We were lucky enough that we got the grants, the small business grants that were available, and that just kind of helped with those early processes. But aside from that, we've not really tapped into anything else, to be honest. Our development side, I imagine, is much smaller than anything Leo would be entering into, because realistically, our process was very easy. The World Health Organization issued guidance for local production of sanitizer. HSE were issuing derogations for people to produce, obviously out of the usual process that you would need to be certified. So once you received a derogation from them, you were fine. And then working with trading standards as well. So really it was just a case of making sure the label said the right thing and getting the recipe right from reading it from the World Health Organization and going for it, really. So we didn't really need to tap into any big innovation grants or anything, because there wasn't really anything massively innovative about it. I don't want to play it down, but it was relatively straightforward.
I think you've been quite self-effacing there. I think that, you know, understanding and adhering to all those regulations is perhaps not as easy as you make out.
I think, you know, I just think that we were... Wilson's here. I think that once you've got a basic understanding of the licensing and things that we all have to be kind of, that we're all governed by, the procurement of the spirits that were required. Obviously, we understand all of that because we're licensed for it anyway. Well, sorry, Alan's just come in the downstairs door. Wilson's saying hello. So yeah, so it was just lots of reading really, and just making sure that we applied the right things in the right places, and made sure we were doing the right things, and that was it. So yeah, we were very fortunate that as much as we did have to completely shift our business model, it was one that we were kind of partly geared up to do anyway, because we already had licenses in place for the procurement of the alcohols, and obviously the team are trained for working with those chemicals and things as well. So yeah, so we were very fortunate that we were already in that position.
Brilliant. And you've taken stuff on as well, you were saying earlier on.
Yeah, so we took on two distillery operatives. So a couple of weeks before lockdown, I moved my office to home, and Kelly, our distillery manager, we moved her to home, and our sales chap, we'd actually just employed a new sales chap who was due to start on the 24th of March, a strong start date for anyone there. So we kind of said to him as well, we don't want to leave you without a job, but as a travelling salesman, you might struggle. So he obviously, he wouldn't have been eligible for furlough. So we said, you can still start your position, but you need to do whatever you need to do. So he was picking, packing, moving pallets, doing whatever salesmen hate to do. And then on top of that, we brought in two more distillery operatives just to help with the turnover of the sanitizer bottles and the food.
Brilliant, but he understands the business now far better than he would have done if he'd gone straight out.
Yeah, do you know, a lot of big companies that we work with, kind of distributors, especially if they get a new field sales rep, they're in the breweries or in the warehouses and things for about 6 months before they're out on the road. We can never afford to do that. We just cannot, as a small business, justify paying somebody for that amount of time, whereas he understands everything back to front, from distillation to kind of the products leaving, because he was a delivery driver as well. So yeah, it's given him probably a bigger advantage than he would have ever had coming in normal circumstances.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amy. And as with Leo, I'm going to come back to you if that's all right, and talk about the future and perhaps what that holds and advice that you share with others. But for now, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Sam, I'm going to jump to you now, if that's okay. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No.
But we've heard already two really good examples of businesses that have not only survived through the pandemic, but both of those have actually managed to avoid furlough and taken staff on. So no pressure on you, Sam. But Sam, can you give us a little bit of a background into your business prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, so we have two businesses. So we have Salted Orange, which is the outside catering and events company, specialising in wedding, large-scale events, corporate hospitality, you name it, births, deaths, everything in between, to put it bluntly. We, pre-lockdown, pre-COVID, we had over 60 weddings booked this year and 100 other events ranging from 50 people through to 500 plus people. So it was a very positive year. We were on track with that. We've seen year-on-year growth. We have 13 full-time members of staff, which this year in February we literally changed everyone to salaried member of staff because we wanted to guarantee jobs and positive mindset in an industry that's notoriously bad for it. Yeah, so there's that, and then we have Unconventional Distillery as well, which is rum distillery, everything distillery now, and yeah, so that has 2 full-time members of staff, which we started in September last year, which we were just starting to really get the wheels in motion in the new year. So yeah, it was a fun, productive start to the year.
And so the distillery with 2 people started in September. How long is the Salted Orange as the outdoor catering? How old is that business? So
Salted Orange started in August 2014. So yeah, it's coming up to its birthday as well. So
happy birthday to you as well then for next month.
Sorry, yeah, thank you.
Happy birthday to you as well for next month. Yeah. So 160 events.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really good order book. That's looking really positive.
Oh, very much so. The industry leads itself to it. You know, we have bookings up to 2023. You know, it's that's how busy we get. And yeah, it was certainly a good time because everything has been paid off, and it was like show me the money. You know, so yeah.
And then you sat down at home or sat in the office watching Boris Johnson come on and tell everyone they've got to stay at home. And
Yeah,
it's not like we didn't half expect that, but that comes. And tell me.
Yeah, we were quite literally sat in the distillery. My two other directors had just got back from Gibraltar after a very difficult journey, and we knew that it was going bad, but we didn't. We just kind of had to take it as it was coming, as everyone was. So we were doing what we could. But yeah, and then he gets on TV and says, right, 12-week isolation for everyone that's considered at risk. So me and the guys put our heads together, and it was like, what do we do? And yeah, we basically ceased all events because that's the way it was going. And we launched our non-profit Food Through Adversity program, which was 21 meals for £20 for anyone over the age of 65 in the Lincoln area, to make sure that, you know, they had the necessary resources and food available to them. It blew up overnight. Lincolnite picked it up, and within 12 hours we had over 150,000 views, 100 and something thousand shares. It was just overwhelming. Phone lines went absolutely bananas. We just couldn't believe it. And it went fast.
And you needed that publicity, yeah, because it's all very well having an idea, but then you've got to get it somehow to market.
Absolutely, and that was the main thing for us. It was a case of like, how do we get the word out? And as soon as the Lincolnite picked it up, we had Age UK come to us and said that they wanted to help and support us. So they offered their skill set, and thankfully with remote working and everything, they could take over the booking system so that they could handle the influx of calls. You know, at peak capacity, we were taking on over 700 calls a day of trying to get this booked in. And yeah, my guys, God bless them, you know, they busted their asses for like 23, 24-hour days without even thinking about it, you know, to get it working. You know, we was all staring down the barrel, you know. When we employ someone, we was very much of opinion we're making a commitment for life in a lot of respects, and especially with them being just given those contracts and everything, we was like, no, we're going to make it work. And you know, they just did anything that was needed, and it was a complete dynamic shift going from, you know, high-end food, restaurant quality food, to pre-bagged meals delivered to your door. You know, it's just, we're on less than £1 a meal. It was, yeah, bananas.
What are the 21 meals looking like? Is that a week's worth, 3 meals a day?
Yeah, it's basically 7 days a week, 3 square meals. I was very much of the mindset that we had to make sure that the protein and the carbohydrate count was within government guidelines, especially for over 65s. So it was a fine balancing act. A lot of elderly people don't eat 3 meals a day, which we found out after the fact. So it allowed us to adapt the menu slightly. And then, you know, we made sure that most of the cost went to the main meals, and then the lighter meals that they had something a bit more creative, really. So it was truly unbelievable. You know, we're spending £15,000 a week at peak capacity just on food, and it was, we're going from being a medium-sized purchaser to the largest purchaser of food in Lincolnshire in the space of days. Was, yeah, having whole Arctic lorries come in with food for you and stuff. It was quite fun, actually. So, yeah.
So a completely different business, completely different.
Oh, without a doubt, it went from being a restaurant on wheels to a manufacturing plant. And, you know, thank God we literally invested in a brand new 20 grid, all singing, all dancing oven that basically just said, bring it, you know, so no issues, no stress, like smashing out thousands, you know, 1,000+ beef rolls and stuff like that in a day, no drama. So
And what was peak in terms of number of customers taking your meals?
So at peak, we was doing 500 meals, 500 clients, 500 people a week, which equated to 21 meals for 500 people. So whatever the math is on that, I forget now. So
10,500.
Yeah, 10,500 meals in 1 week. So
Wow.
yeah, bananas. I'm like, yeah, just it was amazing. Like I couldn't be more proud of the guys. Like it got so in a routine and everything like that. It was a real pleasure. And it was very much a pivot. You know, it's for me. We could have quite easily have shut up shop, chucked everyone on furlough, and you know just dealt with it. But we're just not that sort of people. We're not people like that. You know, we wanted to make sure that we got out there, we helped out, and we did what was right. You know, I can't sit on my hands for anything. Like, you know, if you give me 12 weeks in a house, I'll go insane. So the guys, especially that, you know, so my garden isn't as nice as other people's, I'm sure, but you know, I'm pleased with what we've done. So, but then obviously we have the distillery as well. So we got like very much like Bottomley, we got asked to produce hand sanitizer for NHS and subsidiary companies. So we don't buy spirit, we make spirit. So when everyone couldn't buy spirit, we were making it. So we upscaled our capacity from a humble 1,000 litres to over 20,000 litres of preparation in the space of a week and a half. So again, improvise, adapt, overcome. So that kept that side of that business afloat, you know, and it was, again, 24-hour schedules, you know, with like a 4-hour run, next person in, 4-hour run, next person in. So very much hand in hand for everyone. So
I love that. Improvise, adapt, overcome. That should be on the front of the lectern.
Someone told me ages ago, I think it's like Bear Grylls or some crap. So, you know, but
I don't think it's crap. I think it's really quite good. That is good. And
ours is chaos, organized chaos. That's the way that we operate. So that's
have you had any? What I've got from Amy and Leo so far is that actually they've just got on and done it. And
yeah, very much so.
They've applied for a little bit of support, but actually it's not been a game changer. What resources or support have you been able to tap into?
We got nothing other than the government grants. We got that peed me off slightly because our industry, the hospitality industry, has been hit the most. But event catering seems to be forgotten about in this slide. So, you know, we was expecting to get the 25k to cover our, you know, staff in and stuff. We only got the 10,000 basic, and that didn't really do anything. It's just a drop in the ocean. So, you know, when you're talking nearly £1 million turnover, you know, 10k is scratching the surface. So, you know, for us, it was very much a just get on and get it done. You know, karma, whatever else, you know, God, Allah, Buddha, whoever will look after us in the long run. So, you know, innovative, yeah, maybe, but it's essentially just pivoting the business and making sure that we can survive and be happy with it. So, yeah.
So, Sam, well, just before I move on to what the future holds, just a reminder to the other participants in this webinar, please do ask questions. You know, you've got an opportunity here from 3 people each that have only got 3 letters in their first name, which is amazing. If I can ask you first, though, Sam, because I kept you waiting till the end with the first bit. You've now opened up this whole new side to your business.
Yeah.
What's the future hold?
Well, so again, the Meals on Wheels kind of Food for Adversity program was designed for 12 weeks. That was the initial thing. So we made sure that it was finite. It was not a long-term plan. We can't couldn't survive on giving it non-profit and taking no money out of it. So moving forward, we wanted to continue the service, and pre-lockdown, we was in the process of creating a new subsidiary, trading as brands as So Fresh. That was to take on our midweek corporate hospitality, kind of more buffet style of food. So it's like fresh, healthy meal delivery, meal prep, that kind of stuff. So we basically took that brand and we've evolved it to be a hybrid of the meal delivery service, which we've evolved, and we've made it into a profitable business, but also and then added the corporate side to it as well. So businesses going back to work, we have 10 clients at the moment where they're having 50 plus meals daily, fresh, organic, natural, bright, full food that's not buffet, so that's allowed us to grow and evolve from that. Thankfully, the last 4 or 5 weeks, people have started to see the light, so we're getting wedding bookings and inquiries and event inquiries coming back in for the new year. So next year, we've gone from 60 weddings to about 124 at the last count. So
Wow.
I'm not crying at night thinking about that, but
No, because I guess all the business schools would teach us that one thing to avoid is to have all our eggs in one basket. And that's
very much so. And like Leo, when we opened the distillery, we was invited to pitch, and one of the biggest comments that we got from it is, why are we not sticking with one thing? And I was like, well, who in this room sticks with one thing? You don't diversify your assets. I mean, if it wasn't for the distillery over this whole period of time, we would have not been in the position we've been in. We've been able to add to our arsenal. It's been a godsend, because again, Salted Orange was birthed by Salted Orange, so it's paid itself back and everything. So I'm really pleased with the future look of how we've done things. So moving forward, we're just going to keep growing and doing what we're doing. But the sooner we get back up to 100 people gatherings, the better for me. So
when will your first live physical event be, do you think?
That is on Saturday, 1st of August. We are allowed to do weddings for 30 people, and we have 3 weddings booked for 30 people. So again, just while we was in lockdown, I had a lot of time to think about things, and I could see a pattern of where we were going. So we launched socially distanced weddings a few weeks back. And basically, I just spent all the time reading up on the guidance and the guidelines, and we've managed to create a really awesome package that was designed for anyone that just wanted to get married and just have a really good time, but still deal with the restrictions. So this package has been designed up to 50 people, but who knows, if it keeps picking up, then we might end up keeping it going till up to 100 people, just evolve it again. So it was really about how we can adapt to the situation. So, and I'm pleased to say that people have took it on board. So
brilliant. Well, good luck with those 3 on Saturday.
Thank you.
If you could share one piece of advice for the businesses looking to diversify amid the pandemic, what would it be?
My advice is selfless acts never get unrecognized, and that was the biggest thing for us, that we talked about making the meal deliveries and everything slightly profitable, but philanthropy is one of the best forms of karma on the soul, but also in the business mindset. So the natural organic response we got from the posting and the social media was just phenomenal, and it's grown our business exponentially because of it. And I truly believe that is the greatest form of advertising that you can have. I'm still hoping for an MBE, but we're not quite there yet. So, we'll see.
I'll put a word in for you. But you're absolutely right. You can't pay for 150,000 views, can you?
No.
Well, you can, but it's going to cost you a bit.
Yeah, and you're never going to get the same thought or response from it, you know. And it's. I know some people would get sick of seeing it and stuff like that, but there's no intention of it. It was just purely to make it work for everyone and to make sure that the people that were in need were sorted. I grew up in a sheltered housing scheme. My mum used to run it, so I know firsthand what it's like to live with 50 elderly people and to live in a day-to-day environment. I know how isolating it can be. So, you know, given that unprecedented time, it was very much I know what they're going to go through. So I wanted to make sure that at least they had hot, tasty food. So, you know.
That's brilliant. For now, thank you very much. I'm hoping that there'll be some questions from the floor as well, but thank you very much for sharing that with us, and good luck.
Pleasure.
Cheers. I'm going to go back down the line now and return to you, Amy, if that's okay. Apologies that we've got a competition here in terms of gin and rum distillers from Lincolnshire on the same meeting, but hey, we've got a good karma.
Sam, I'll let you off.
Do you know each other?
Yeah.
You do, good, good. Thank you. So, Amy, the same kind of last two questions that I asked Sam, really. What does the future hold for Bottomley Distillers now?
So we are just very much being as reactive as we can be, really. We're not opening up any of our experiences for the foreseeable. So our kind of the visitor economy side of our business is completely off. Just because we don't have the biggest space. So our gin school and our tour and taste we sell as an intimate experience, which doesn't really sit very well with social distancing. And we would rather wait until we can provide that safely and still deliver the same experience rather than rushing into it just to get the profit back and running the risk of either putting people at risk or them not having a very good time, because when you have people into your venue, it's a shop front, it's a window for them to kind of access your business, and if they're coming in and feeling uncomfortable or just not having a very good time, then that's not good for anybody. So that side of the business is still off for probably in reality until next year. But again, we're just being reactive and we don't know whether we're going into lockdown again. We don't know whether there will be a second wave. We don't know anything. So that will just be a case of being as reactive as possible. The on-trade side of our business, pre-lockdown, probably 80% of our spirit sales went through the distributors and into the on-trade. So obviously that's been off for a while. And even though it is returning now, it's not returning in any volume as it was before. So we're just kind of just cracking on really and seeing what the future holds. We can plan our production, we can be reactive from the sanitizer production side of things, and people still need that from a commercial perspective and a charity perspective, so that will continue to run alongside. But as far as making any rash decisions about what we're going to be doing in 3 months, we've not really made any yet, just because we don't know what our industry is looking like. If we were fortunate enough, like obviously Sam's talked about with the weddings, they know that weddings are back on. And yes, obviously we will naturally see an increase in sales because of those things. But we can't definitively say we're going to see this spike because of this, because we just don't know. So yeah, we're just going to carry on being reactive and hoping for the best. That's it really.
And if you could share one piece of advice for other businesses that have diversified or looking to diversify, or what would that be? What's your piece of advice?
Probably a very similar sentiment to Sam's, to be honest. If you've got the opportunity to continue your business and make a difference for the greater good, then why would you not do that? We kind of things like Sam was saying about the karma and things like that. Yes, it was the buzz of the whole project was just incredible. Again, not pointing back to Sam too much, but when he said about like the Arctics coming in and the 24 hours and just that buzz of, it was like I don't know, a couple of times I likened it to being like on the Wolf of Wall Street, you know, when everything's chaos, obviously a few less drugs, but just the chaos and everything. And there was a real buzz from doing it. And I genuinely think a lot of that came from the difference that we knew we were making as well. And it wasn't, yes, it was really nice to have the big PR stories and we're dropping off at this charity or whatever. But do you know, we had the amount of individual inquiries that came to us where, I don't know, we had people that would ring and say, my mum's still got to leave the house because she's having chemotherapy, or I've got to, there were one in particular called us on a Friday afternoon and said, my dad's just been sent home to receive palliative care because he's had a stroke. And that afternoon they had sanitizer and PPE on their doorstep. And being able to make that difference and that impact, when you can see directly the impact that it's having on those people, is worth more than any invoice coming through in the world. And so if you have the opportunity to make those differences, then absolutely do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you for now, Amy. That's brilliant. Leo, we've kept you waiting the longest in a kind of a way. We kept Sam waiting a long time to start with, but we're back to you now. We're back to where we started. Leo, what's the future hold for you for Tender?
So what we're doing at the moment is that we're quite big on sustainability and products being used for a very short period of time, particularly when they involve electronics, is a massive impact on our carbon footprint as a company. So we've got about another month of development and optimization of social distancing products. And then after that, we have our team moving over to effectively building new software to sit on those same devices so that they can be readapted to be used in another purpose, which will still add long-term safety values to those end users. Two benefits. One, it means that their commercial contract probably will be extended. But number two is that it means that they're going to get much longer term value post-COVID. And that's a really big one for us. We're preparing for a potential second wave, however you put it, and what impact that could have on our business and also our clients, because that naturally has an impact on us, whether it be positive or negative. So yeah, really just seeing things through. We're all still working from home. We have the odd person going into the office now and then, which is good for mental health, I think. But yeah, we'll probably be working from home and continuing that for into next year. And if anything, it might be something that we just continue. You know, I wonder whether the days of office space has left. Who knows at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of it for us.
Thank you. And if there was one piece of advice that you could share?
I think Sam and Amy both had fantastic advice. You know, my background was in charity before I started this business, so I'm very passionate about helping other people. But I'm not going to reiterate what they say. So I would say that business is a risk, and there's always going to be risks involved. And to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be a natural risk taker. And some of the best businesses in the world have been created during big, deep recessions. And we're currently seeing probably the worst recession that we'll have seen for definitely my generation. I should imagine most other people who are alive today. So there is opportunity. If you can try and commoditize on that opportunity, I think there's a lot that can be said and done for that. But that makes me sound like the bad guy, because I'm the one saying, make money out of it. And Sam and Amy have said, do the right thing. But I totally agree.
I'll try to make money.
So yeah, that's kind of it for me. And I'm really sorry, because whilst I hit 3 o'clock after my questions, I am going to have to go because I have another call to jump onto. So fantastic to hear everybody else's story. Really, really cool. I'm sorry I can't stay any longer. But yeah, good to see everybody.
Leo, thanks very much for joining us. In actual fact, there are no questions. What I would say from speaking to the three of you, I've loved it, and I found you all really, really interesting. And yes, you are entrepreneurs, so naturally you are risk takers. There is a bit of philanthropy that runs through. But I think the one thing that ties all three of you together actually is that At a time when some people feel doom and gloom, you entered into this with your eyes wide open, and you've been able to just look around you. So rather than looking inwards and worrying, that you've really just looked for opportunities, and I think that's the thread that runs through what we do, is the ability just to think and to have your eyes open. And if you've got your eyes open, then opportunities come your way far easier than if your eyes are shut. That goes without saying, I guess, but perhaps that's easier to theorise than to actually practice. So we have no questions. Is that right, Juliet? Juliet, rescue me. Take over. Close this.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't had any questions. I think they were just such really good stories, and you gave us all we needed, I hope. Yeah, I'm getting a nod from Stuart. Thank you, Stuart, for that. So yeah, it's been really, really interesting hearing from all three of you, your stories. So thank you again for taking your time out to share that with us. Thank you, Simon, for chairing the session as well. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. I hope that you've got some inspiration from that, and hopefully that will help you through the next few months or whatever we're faced with, who knows. So just need to finalise with a few more details, and then we'll be gone. But thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. So just to add that we are really keen to hear your thoughts on today's webinar. It's been slightly different to the other webinars that we've done, so it'd be good to hear what you thought about it. There will be a survey sent to you via email, so it will only take a couple of minutes to complete. So if you could do that, that would be brilliant. Thank you. And also, as always, on there, we're asking for information on any topics that you may like to see in the future, so that we can make sure that our webinars are ticking the right boxes for you. So that'd be great if you can if there's any input there. Also, please do keep your eye on the website, because we'll be putting the latest updates on there to get your business back on track. And if you've not already done so, subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can do that through the website at www.businesslincolnshire.com. Finally, we have got some more webinars coming up. Our next two, we've got on next Thursday, the 6th of August, and that one is the 3 essential elements of digital marketing. And then the following Thursday, the 13th of August, we are looking at starting to sell online. So top 10 tips if you're not already selling online. That'll be a good one for you to join if you're thinking about expanding from that point of view. You can book these webinars on the Business Lincolnshire website, and there's also a full list there if these topics aren't for you. There's quite a lot for you to see there. So if you go and have a look under the events menu, you'll see what we've got. Also, if you've enjoyed today's session, just to let you know, we do have another innovation showcase planned on Thursday, the 3rd of September at 2 p.m. And this time we'll be focusing on Lincolnshire businesses that are embracing digital technologies to grow. And that will be bookable via the Business Lincolnshire website shortly. So if that's of interest, please do join us. Okay, so thank you very much again for your time. That brings us to a close now. So on behalf of Business Lincolnshire and our panellists, Amy, Sam and Leo, thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.